talking about part 2 in teaching the place command. In part 1, we talked about creating the behavior of getting on place. We used a food lure, a reward, to lure the dog up onto the place cot. That was step 1. Step 2 was to lure the dog onto the place cot, mark that behavior with yes, and reward the dog. So in the first video, we're creating the behavior, marking and rewarding, creating values so the dog wants to get on the place cot. Then the third thing that we did was we began to actually label the behavior of place. We weren't asking for it. We weren't giving a command of place. We were labeling that behavior, making the associations. So the associations we're making were getting on place has value, you get a reward. Getting on place also has an association with the word place. And then also we talked about getting the dog off of the place cot, and that we were creating a behavior with an association of a mark and a reward for getting off. And then we began to label that behavior of getting off the cot by using the word break. Now we're going to go one more step. If you remember from the beginning when I first talked about place in the first video in part 1, I talked about place being the foundation for all good stay commands. And when we teach the dog to stay, we don't use the word stay, it becomes an implied stay. And we want to teach that with heavy distractions. Doesn't do us any good if the dog can't stay with heavy distractions. I talked about in the first video that to get that solid, reliable, heavy stay with distractions, that we first start with place, because it's easier for the dog to make the association. Again, because of the physical boundary, it's more clear for the dog to stay on there versus coming off. The fact that it's raised up off the ground a few inches, it's more clear for the dog to stay on there rather than step off. When we talked about marker training, we talked about, first of all, yes equals treat. The other marker that we have in training our dogs is the marker good. The marker good gets a reward just like yes gets a reward. However, good teaches the dog, and good means keep doing what you're doing. So primarily, you're going to be using good to mark the behavior of staying. And in this case, you're going to see that in this next portion where I'm going to be teaching the dog to stay. In the beginning, we're not doing a lot of distractions. We're going to be maybe moving around the cot. We're not going to go far from the dog. We're going to be rewarding quite frequently. So we're going to teach the dog staying on there has value because you get more food rewards. So let's begin that process now. Boop. Hey. Place. Yes. So the first command, the dog gets a yes. Again, don't have your hand in the treat pouch till after you mark the behavior. Good. 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 Break. Yes. So again, the marker good means keep doing what you're doing. And basically, we're marking and rewarding the fact that the dog is staying. You saw initially that I wasn't going far away from the dog. I was making little movements, a step to the side, step back. I'll begin to do that more in terms of duration, having the dog stay in there for a longer period of time. I will begin to increase my distance from the dog, And the other thing that I want you to understand about marking and rewarding is that, as I mentioned in the marker training video, and as I mentioned in the first part of teaching place, you need to make sure you have high value food rewards. Again, we need to motivate the dog, and we want to make sure that when we're doing that the dog is hungry. So again, don't go into a training session right after you've fed your dog. Let me do a little more of beginning to teach the dog to stay with duration. And notice I never say the word stay. We're going to teach this as an implied stay. The way the dog gets to come off of the cot is going to be with the command break. Boo! Hey! Hey, Boo! Here. Good dog. All right. Here. Place. Yes. Good. 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 You'll notice here I'm giving more than one food reward. There are times when you want to give 2 or 3 to motivate the dog to continue to do this behavior. Again, it has value. When we give multiple food rewards, we don't give another mark. Good. Again, there I gave multiple rewards, but it was only 2. Now, I moved fast, which is a distraction. You saw the dog took the bait of me moving fast. Whatever it is that might cause your dog to come off of place, when you did not give the command of break, you are just going to go ahead and recommand the dog. However, when the dog comes off and you did not ask the dog with the command of break to come off, that recommand will not get a food reward. Because again, we're teaching the implied stay. So we're only going to be rewarding the stay component on this part of the exercise. Boo! Hey! Place! No reward. I'm going to move around a little bit. Good. Mark with good the fact that the dog is staying. I might give just 1. Move around some more. Good. I'm going to give the dog a chance to either make the mistake or do it right this time by moving back fast. Good. That time she didn't make the mistake. This is a great time to give your dog multiple food rewards because it's kind of like performance-based pay. If your dog does the right behavior, why not give them a bigger paycheck? Good. Now, besides just making movements and going from a slow movement to a fast movement to try to distract the dog, you can begin to do other things to distract the dog. Your dog's name is not a command, so I might use the dog's name to distract the dog. Good. Now, the dog's been staying up there while I've been talking to you, so I wanted to go ahead and mark the fact that the dog was still staying up there. I'm going to go ahead and give another food reward. Again, I'm not giving a second mark if I'm giving multiple food rewards. I'm going to move back from the dog. Good. Reward the dog for me moving back. Now this time I'm going to go ahead and coax the dog a little bit. Not that I want the dog to come off, but it's a distraction. Good. If the dog does not take the bait, we want to mark and reward the fact that the dog did not take the bait. If the dog does take the bait, we're merely going to recommand. We're not going to reward on the recommand. Good. Good. Now I'm going to distract the dog with the dog's name. If the dog comes off, I'm going to recommand, no reward. If the dog doesn't take the bait, I mark with good, the dog gets a reward. Boo! Boo! Good. Did you see the dog hesitate there? The dog initially wanted to come off, but it caught itself. That's also a great opportunity to reward multiple times because the dog is beginning to really learn that light bulb's coming on and the dog's learning to have impulse control. Let me do a different distraction with the dog. Woohoo! Hey, hey! Good. If the dog doesn't take the bait, go ahead, reward the dog. Remember, if the dog does take the bait, you are going to recommand and you are going to hold the reward back in that moment. I'm going to go ahead and use a food lure as distraction, as a way to try to get the dog to make a mistake. Place, no reward. Now I'm going to do that again. Place, again, no reward. Dog doesn't take the bait, good. So anytime the dog takes the bait of a distraction, you want to go ahead and redo what you just did, giving the dog the opportunity to learn. The way the dog learns how to stay on the cot is by creating a very black and white cause and effect association. When I come off, I get asked to go back on, but I don't get a reward. However, when there's a distraction and I don't come off, I get a reward. One behavior has value. The other behavior of coming off when not asked to come off has no value. The dog's going to gravitate towards doing the behavior that gets the reward. Again, I'm going to go ahead and use a food lure to try to bait the dog off. And again, the dog's not supposed to come off here unless I give the command of break. Place, no reward. The dog took the bait. Place, no reward because the dog took the bait. Good. That time the dog did not take the bait, the dog got rewarded. So the next part of practicing this particular exercise is to begin to do those, what I call low-level distractions. We're going to get into high-level distractions in the next video. We're also going to, in the next video, talk about negative reinforcement. Up to this point, we've just been using positive reinforcement, but negative reinforcement is going to go ahead and allow us to have even greater permanence of behavior, greater reliability under very, very heavy distractions.
If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you have a problem with your dog's behavior and training, contact Phoenix Dog Training at 602-769-1411 or visit us on the web at phoenixdogtraining.com. Those outside of Arizona, be sure to check out our online training options.